Welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lee. Our guest today, Mitch Light of Athlon Magazine. He is also the sideline reporter for Vanderbilt football. This episode is presented by the Well Coffee House, a Nashville area coffee house that provides fresh roasted coffee along with house-made pastries, breakfast, and lunch offerings. There are 4 locations to serve you in the Nashville area. Those can be found in Brentwood, Green Hills, downtown, and Bellevue. By the way, I ate at the one in Brentwood this morning. Good food. Go there for breakfast when you get a chance. More information can be found at thewellcoffeehouse.org. The Well Coffee House, where coffee changes lives. We thank our co-sponsor, Wellspire, Nashville's Learning and Development Center, which is located in the Gulch. Today's news sponsored by Sutherland and Belk, a family-owned injury law firm. If you or a loved one has been hurt in any type of an accident, call Taylor or Russell at 615-846-6200. See what your rights are and if they can help. Vanderbilt beats Northern Illinois 24-18 on Saturday. The Commodores improved to 1-3. KeShawn Vaughn, the star of the day, 17 rushes, 138 yards, and a touchdown. The guest line is presented by our friends at Boll & Branch, started by Vanderbilt graduates Scott and Missy Tannen. I've slept on these sheets for about 5 to 6 years now. They're fantastic sheets. I had no idea how comfortable those sheets were until I got them. I've not slept on anything since. They're fair trade certified. That means they're made under safe conditions by men and women, treated and paid fairly. Try them for a month. You can return them for free, but you're not going to want to. Once you get the sheets, try the mattress. That was voted best mattress of 2018. Go to bollandbranch.com. That's spelled B-O-L-L. Enter the promo code Vandy to get $50 off your first set of sheets. Mitch Light joins us now. Mitch, of course, the editor of the fine Athlon series of publications, which cover all kinds of sports, college and pro. You know him as the sideline reporter for Vanderbilt football. Mitch, appreciate you joining us on this Monday.
No problem. I was going to say the very well-tanned sideline reporter after 2 straight games with the unbelievable heat and sun.
I was out driving less than an hour ago, and my thermostat in my car said 97, and it feels every bit of it. I know we have a lot of in-town listeners, but a lot of out-of-town listeners too. So if you're not following the weather in Nashville, it is brutal.
Yeah, I know. Now the sidelines, I guess someone told me, obviously I wasn't watching the game, but that the SEC Network reported there's like 127 degrees on the field on the turf.
Yeah, I don't know how you play through that. I mean, I think when I was 18, not that I was an athlete at that level or anything, but I think you tune things out that once you get to be our age, you do not tune out as easily. So
right, but also there were a lot of injuries. You know, the guys getting banged up on both sides and stuff, and I'm sure the heat contributed to that.
Yeah, and I want to start there. I know that you can't disclose everything you know sometime, but there were a lot of guys that went down on the Vanderbilt end. How much do you sense were just that kind of thing or guys getting banged up? And on the other side, what is it that Vanderbilt should be concerned with in terms of that sort of thing?
Yeah, I don't know I don't think anyone got seriously hurt based on heat related or anything like that. I'm looking, Flete Efemui did not play, and I he has played some with the hand. I don't know if it was hand related there. He's obviously a key contributor. Tay Daly did not play. I don't know how big of a loss that is. Frank Coppett coming back helps. Now here's one I did not. It happened late in the game, so I didn't even have a chance to follow up. But Dante Carrier-Williams got hurt. Looked like a knee, just from my observations. So I don't know how serious that is. Offensively, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember too many injuries. My guess is with Javion Marlowe, his knee is just not where he needs to be, because I'd be surprised he's not playing more unless Justice Shelton Mosley's kind of gotten his snap. I said this last week. I know they're not the same position, but they have a similar skill set. So I don't know how many of the injuries were that serious, but they played more guys. This is just anecdotally, just watching. It seems like they played more guys in garbage time than I've ever seen them.
I wrote about that this morning. It's not a lot more, but I think they played 47 on Saturday, And as you said, Afamui was not available. Daly was not available. Last year, at the end of the year, they were playing right around 44, 45. So they're playing a few more this year.
Yeah, and there's yesterday I'm looking at the participation, and there's some guys on the offensive line definitely that were rotating in. On the injury front, the good thing, the offensive line appears to be 100% healthy, but they were playing some guys on the defensive line defensively that we hadn't seen. I don't think we had seen Anthony Orji yet this year. Josiah Sale, I'm not sure we had seen. Except during garbage time, number 57 defensive tackle there. Sean McMorrow, was that the first time he played this year?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Pro Football Focus credited him with 6 snaps. It put him at left tackle, which I don't think was right center, based on just adding up the snaps at other positions.
He played center.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
I have no idea if this contributed to it, but Grant Miller played the first 2 series, and then Vanderbilt scored 2 touchdowns, and then they put in McMorrow, and then the offense started to bog down. Again, I have no idea if that contributed to it, but I asked someone on the sideline, that was by design, and it was because it was so hot. They were just trying to get as many guys out there, and McMorrow's a guy that I'd have to go back and look. How many significant snaps did he play last year? He's been hurt a lot. He was a highly recruited kid that hasn't been able to kind of elbow his way into the starting lineup. But, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember him playing a lot of snaps last year.
I'm looking that up as we speak, and according to Pro Football Focus, this will be on here somewhere. I want to say the number was around 150.
That's more than I thought. Okay.
Yeah, let's see. Hang on. Oh, no, you're right. It was 67, and he did not grade well, by the way. Let me see. The year before, I think he played a little bit. Probably not a lot more than that, or maybe I'm misremembering that. He played 20 snaps the year before, so this is his 4th year on campus?
Yeah, I think he's a 4th-year junior.
He was,
yeah.
And look, center evaluations seem to be very hit and miss, because I think Dan Dawkins was the number 1 rated center, according to Rivals, when he committed to Vanderbilt, but Sean McMorrow, he was Sean Alway then.
Right.
I believe he was one of the top 2 or 3 centers in the country and was committed to not LSU, UCLA. Right? UCLA. And then backed out, got let go. I don't know what it was. Sometimes schools have a way of releasing kids from their commitments while letting the kid save face and say, I've decommitted. I don't know if that was the case or not, but in any case, he's never lived up to what it seemed like he was when he was a recruit. Now, injuries have been part of that. I'm not trying to bash Sean McMorrow, but it just is what it is.
Yeah, and you'd have to ask a recruiting analyst or someone more knowledgeable than me, but my guess is, 95% of your best offensive linemen in the high school ranks play left tackle. They don't play center. I know you need to be smart to play center, and there's some size things. So if you're a bigger school, maybe you play center. But, if I'm recruiting, I'm trying to sign as many high school left tackles as possible.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably the case with a lot of schools. I want to circle back to defense for a moment. I'm thinking of the injuries. The secondary, I think, is where they've got to be concerned, although maybe you have diminishing returns on the concerns because a lot of those guys just have not played well. But you talked about D.C. Williams. I think the injury there was, it appeared that, I think it was Frank Coppett rolled into his leg, and he went out immediately, went into the injury tent, was in there for several minutes, and I saw him limp off towards the locker room. And when I say limp off, he was really limping. It did not look good. Frank Coppett, I did not see what happened, but I did notice around the 3rd quarter, so I'm assuming he didn't play the second half, that I looked over and there was Frank without his pads. I think he had his jersey on. That's how I knew who he was, but no pads, no helmet.
Yeah, he was riding an exercise bike for a lot of the 3rd quarter, and which I guess is a good sign. I mean, it's not a great sign that he didn't come back in, but he was at least on the bike.
Well, he had a pretty severe knee injury, so I am shocked that he is even back at all. So credit to him for pressing through and getting this far, but you have to wonder how effective he'll be.
Yeah, and just talking to some people, he's a pretty valuable guy back there. Played well at the end of last year. So, yeah, that was a big loss.
Yeah, Frank led them in interceptions a year ago on a defense that included Jawan Williams. And I think safety interceptions are probably more of a flukish thing than corner interceptions, because a lot of times those are tipped balls or balls that are sailed over the middle of the field. And as a safety, you've kind of got a garbage collector type role that you don't get the luxury of as a cornerback, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
KeShawn Vaughn, let's talk about him for a minute. I did not know this, and you did not know this either. We knew that he was expecting a son soon. Apparently his partner, girlfriend, whatever, gave birth around, I think, 7 last night. And you've been in the delivery room as a dad. That's one of those things that you don't just click off the adrenaline and go to sleep right away. Throwing an 11 o'clock kickoff where I'm assuming he's got to be at the stadium, 8 or something like that. In fact, Derek Mason talked about this after the game, because a lot of people were saying, hey, why didn't they use KeShawn Vaughn more? Well, A, it was incredibly hot, and B, that. So I'm guessing KeShawn probably did not come to the stadium as well rested as he normally did. And hey, congrats off to that guy, not just for becoming a father, but also for playing, I thought, very well. And I think he was their MVP of the day.
Yeah, he was fantastic, I thought. And, had a touchdown called back. And, would he have scored without the hold? Who knows? But, he had 17 carries, 3 receptions on 54 offensive snaps. That's one thing. I should have looked this up. I can do it while we're talking. That's got to be as few offensive snaps as Vanderbilt's had in a while. So he was involved in 37% of the offensive snaps, which is a lot. So, I had no problem with his usage, except for maybe one series there where he seemed to be wearing Northern Illinois down. Vanderbilt seemed to be wearing them down in the second half, and they threw the ball a couple times, which, I know you probably defense is probably expecting him to run, so you catch him off guard, whatever. It didn't work. But I had no problem with his usage there. And, yeah, congrats. I've been really impressed with KeShawn on the field, and, just from what I've seen him around the program, he's matured a ton. He's a leader, and seemingly had a great attitude this year, and he's having a great season. He's averaging about 100 yards per carry, and that's, playing two good defenses. So far, it's easy to put up 150 yards on some really inferior opponents, but the fact that he's averaging close to 100 yards with this schedule, and teams obviously keying on him, he's having a really good year.
Well, not just teams keying on him, but Northern Illinois' defensive line, they've got 2 big guys in the middle that had graded out very well, and they played some good teams this year. Utah, Nebraska. I guess we can debate how good Nebraska is, but
yeah,
certainly better than MAC level team. So they had some guys that had graded out really well in stopping the run. I think that's what everybody's trying to stop. So I thought there was that. Snap counts, I'm looking, Mitch.
Yeah, they're 50. Yeah, actually, last year, 54 Kentucky. Only 38 against Alabama. Just never had the ball in that game. That's as low as numbers you'll see. So usually teams get in the high 60s, 70s, and obviously teams that hurry it up, can get up in the 90s. But 54 is a very low number.
Well, 75 against LSU, 82 against Purdue, and the Georgia game was lower than that. I'll find this here in a second, because that was a slower paced game. They had
62.
So yes, easily the fewest snaps of the year.
Yeah, it was the highest, from Vanderbilt's standpoint, it was their highest yards per play, 6.9 yards per play, which is their highest of the season. So it's not like, I don't really look at total yards when I'm looking at box scores, because, I look at every box score in college football. You go to total, yards per play, because that's a better indicator of how an offense is operating.
They went up tempo, they being Vanderbilt, for a few plays. I noticed it one time around midfield, and they shut that down pretty quickly. Have they done that at all this year, other than into half situations? Yeah,
I think so. Not a ton. I'm trying to think, but definitely, because I've whenever I see them get back to the huddle, I just want to be sure. Obviously Joe Fisher's paying attention, but I'll just say tempo into Joe's ear, because he can hear what I'm saying. It doesn't go out over the air. So I definitely remember saying that a couple times in previous games, but I don't recall how many times they've done it.
Yeah, it seems like it's just a short flurry for maybe 1 or 2 plays, and it's not like the Ole Miss or Oregon kind of tempo that those teams have played.
I think you probably when you're playing LSU and Georgia, I know they got behind early in both games, so all bets are off there. But you probably don't want both teams to have 85 snaps when you're playing those teams. You want to slow things down a little bit too.
Right. Let's see. Anything else about the game that caught your eye before we get into the mailbag? And then I have a college football thing or two I wanted to get into before we do the mailbag of interest.
No, I would say I give Vanderbilt, a B- in that game. I thought, obviously you like the way they come out 14-0. Did a lot of good things. Would have loved to see, they get the ball back 14-0. I think at midfield would have loved to see, go for the knockout blow there, get up 21-0 there. Did some good things, but obviously, a little disconcerting letting Northern Illinois back in the game. Defensive numbers, but at the end of the day, weren't awful by any stretch. Only gave up 2 touchdowns, but had a couple chances for the knockout blow in the third and fourth quarter and couldn't deliver. So just kind of going over the stats here, thought like we said, KeShawn played well. A couple of times, Joe and I talked about this on the air. I don't know if it's the humidity or whatever, but both teams, guys losing their footing a lot. And I thought it kind of victimized Riley Neal a couple times where he threw really nice balls and the receiver coming out of the break, definitely one with Cam Johnson, just kind of slipped. And again, Riley had thrown the ball pretty well there. So, I think at this point it wasn't ideal, wasn't the prettiest, but you take the win, knowing what a loss would have meant there. So you just kind of take the win, move on.
I think I graded them a C+ on offense and a B on defense. And I know people were kind of disgusted with the performance in a lot of ways. They felt they should have won the game bigger. And I think the performance, it's not – people can look and say, oh, well, they won a game and this and that, and fans shouldn't be that upset. Well, I think it's an accumulation of the 3 games before. You wanted to see a more dominating performance. Right. But I think in the context of things – I thought their offense didn't play great. I would have liked to see a lot more, but they did get a 14-0 lead. The defense had a shutout. And at the end, they needed to kill the clock in the last 3:10, and they did. So I think they got the job done. It wasn't much more than that. Now, defensively, I think they set the tone with that 14-0 lead. The second half, they were not very good on that side of the ball, but you've got to give them credit for getting that position in the first place and creating a situation where Northern Illinois had to really – turn on the jets and execute at a high level to make it a game. So it was a very utilitarian performance in the sense that it really wasn't that spectacular or pretty or exciting, but it did get the objective, which was to win the game.
Right. I mean, the thing about the college football, obviously your performance is indicative of how good of a team you are, but when you're trying to get to 6 wins, it's not like college basketball a lot of times where you need to play well to impress the selection committee and all that. 6 wins is 6 wins, and this win counts the same as if they would have won 38 to 17. So again, there's some issues with you'd like to see them play better on both sides of the ball if you're going to try and win some more games. But as far as just getting the job done, sure, they got the job done there. In credit Northern Illinois, they made a few really big momentum plays in that game that just, when you thought maybe Vanderbilt even the second half was on the verge of pulling away again, there was a long third down pass when Vanderbilt was obviously dropping a lot of guys in coverage because the quarterback Bowers rolled out, scrambled and threw one. I think got one by Haney down the right sideline. There was another one where I thought they could have called a hold on Kenny Abair. That would have been third down. That would have really turned the game, but they didn't make call, but Northern Illinois converted that pass. So I thought give Northern Illinois credit for, I'm looking at, they had some big plays that, a 44-yard reception, a 20-yard reception, a 38-yard reception, a 28-yard reception, 18-yard reception. So, neither team really moved the ball up and down the field consistently. Both teams had a lot of big plays.
Well, there were a lot of mistakes, too, and that's a game you watch and say, whoever loses this is going to kick itself because they're going to look back and say, oh, man, it was that personal foul or that thing we messed up that really cost us. And I think that would have been the case had it gone Northern Illinois' way on Vanderbilt's end. Instead, it went the other way. And I think Vanderbilt Not that it didn't deserve to win, but it can look back, and of course, again, it hurt itself in its own way with personal fouls. But that was one where they did get some breaks, and probably the biggest being the KeShawn Vaughn fumble, where it seemed like the entire Northern Illinois team was around the ball, but based on where it was fumbled and the way it was bounced, just never had a chance to secure possession.
Yeah, I mean, I would in no way. I know I didn't leave that game at all saying, "Wow, Vanderbilt was lucky to win that game." I thought they were the better team. Sure, Northern Illinois could have won the game, but I didn't feel like, they dodged a bullet there. So that was kind of my takeaway.
Yeah, and I kind of feel the same way. I'm not saying Vanderbilt got lucky, but I am saying that there are breaks and moments in games that can dictate the flow, and that was one that went their way. Now, like you said, they got a hold or a touchdown potentially called back on a hold, and I think the flag was late, maybe it was behind the play.
But Vanderbilt scored the next play.
Oh, okay. That's right. That was the Brooks run.
Yes.
Which basically got forgotten because it was so fast and he didn't do much after that. So
exactly. Yeah.
Ole Miss, what are your thoughts on that matchup? I've not gotten to see the Rebels a lot this year.
Yeah, I was talking to Parrish Alford this morning, or via text, who's covered Ole Miss forever, and he said they came out of Alabama banged up. You could probably Google it. They had 3 key defensive guys get hurt. I think I saw a follow-up tweet. 2 guys are out, 1 guy's day-to-day. I think it was 2 starters and 1 key reserve. They have an interesting quarterback situation. John Rice Plumlee has played a lot lately with Matt Corral being hurt. Corral not having a good season to date, and they're both questionable throwers, and Reese Plumlee's a much better runner. They gave Alabama a lot of trouble early running the ball, so that will be a big key for Vanderbilt if Plumlee plays. My guess is Plumlee will play. He is a very good runner. His passing stats are not very good, but when you can run the ball that well, that really threatens the defense. They have, for an Ole Miss team that has not really emphasized the run recently with running backs, they have some good running backs. Scotty Phillips is very good. Ely, the freshman kid who was maybe going to be a first-round pick in baseball, is a good running back there. Sanders is a decent receiver, a good receiver. So, yeah, they lost a lot, but they have good personnel on offense. But the interesting thing was for most of this year, the offense has struggled. The defense has been better. So, the spread I thought would be 6.5. It was 6.5. I think it's now 7. It's a game Vanderbilt can win, but they're going to have to play a lot better defensively.
The Ole Miss series, of course, those teams are very familiar with each other because they've been permanent opponents for a while. In fact, I cannot remember the last time Vanderbilt did not play Ole Miss.
Played every year since my freshman year, at least in 1989.
Yeah, and I think it's before that too. But in any case, there have been some exceptions, and I'm thinking the game at Nissan Stadium or whatever it was called at the time back in Mason's first year, and I'm thinking of the game, I guess, 2 years ago in Oxford where Ole Miss put 57 on them. But other than that, it seems like Ole Miss gets a Vanderbilt effort that is near the top of its capability most years. Is that just a fluke thing, or do you see a common denominator in that?
Well, I think a lot of it's, maybe they're pretty evenly matched a lot of years too. So, Vanderbilt's had, gone down there. The only SEC win of the Robbie Caldwell era, but I don't think that Ole Miss team was great. And, Bobby Johnson had some big wins down in Oxford, at least one in that bowl eligible season that I was down there. So, yeah, I mean, I'd have to go back and look at, Vanderbilt's won the last 2 in Vanderbilt Stadium and played well offensively. That's one thing Vanderbilt has played well against them offensively. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's fair to say, but I think a lot of times the teams are pretty evenly matched too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, Ole Miss, when it had Hugh Freeze, those were some elite, talented teams. But really, other than that, I think Ole Miss has had some really bad teams. Sometimes Vanderbilt's had some really bad teams at the same time. So I think that's the best explanation. Although, I'll go back to the win. I think it was in 2008 when Vanderbilt ended up getting to the Music City Bowl and winning that game against Boston College and going 7-6. But that Ole Miss team that year was better than Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt did manage to pull the win. I think turnovers were a big thing. And by the way, speaking of that, did you see Jevon Sneed pass last week? He was the quarterback in that game.
Yeah, I did not realize he was the quarterback in that game, but that was obviously tragic news there.
I want to ask you.
I'm looking at these series here. Vanderbilt's won 2 of 3. Ole Miss won 3 straight before that. Vanderbilt won 3 straight prior to that. It's interesting. Last year was a 7-point win by Vanderbilt in overtime. The previous 4 games was margin of victory 22 points, 21 points, 11 points, and 38 points. So I would have thought they'd be closer. Vanderbilt lost 57-35. Vanderbilt won 38-17. Vanderbilt lost in Oxford 27-16. Then obviously the year before that was the 41-3 game that you referenced, the one at LP Field. Then the 39-35 classic. James Franklin's last year when Ole Miss scored late. The year before that, Vanderbilt wins down there 27-26 in a great game. So there have been some fun, spirited games lately.
Yeah, I'm going to look at the last 5 here. Let's see.
Yeah, I got them pulled up.
Well, I've got the lines in front of me too.
Okay.
Ole Miss was a 19-point favorite in 14, won 41-3. Was a 26-point favorite in 15. That's when Ole Miss was like number 2 or 3 in the country, and it just beat Alabama.
They're number 3. They just beat Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was 27-16.
And Vanderbilt actually had the ball in the fourth quarter, down 1 score. Played very well that game.
Yeah, that might have been the old, the letdown after beating Alabama game, but still give Vanderbilt credit. And 2016, Ole Miss was favored by 9, and Vanderbilt won that one 38-17. That was the game after Shea Patterson had played so well in College Station.
Yeah.
The year after that was the 57-35 game. Ole Miss was a 3-point favorite. And then last year, Vanderbilt was a 3-point favorite, which I had forgotten, and won that one 36-29. And by the way, a lot of people in Nashville are very happy to see A.J. Brown not playing Vanderbilt and playing for the Titans after yesterday.
Yeah, he's one of the most impressive athletes I've seen since I've been doing sideline reporting. I noticed him, as a freshman, just thought he was incredible. Had that big catch and run against Vanderbilt last year. He is just an explosive athlete.
Yeah, as a Titans fan, I was elated when they picked him, especially where they picked him. Yeah,
he's good. He's good at football.
What did you make of the Rutgers coaching change? Chris Ash fired. He's 8-32. And by the way, he gets a $9 million buyout not to coach. I would like a $9 million buyout not to coach. If anybody would like to pay me $9 million not to coach, I will.
Yeah, I too let you know. Rutgers football.
Yes.
Wasn't shocked. It's I'm a New Jersey native, so it's a program I follow closely. Wasn't shocked if I would hire Greg Schiano in a heartbeat if he's interested. I'm usually not a fan of revisit, although North Carolina seems to be doing okay of dipping back into the well for a coach, but he's had proven success there. Their problem is right now in the Big Ten East, they have so far to go to be respectable. It's just a difficult job right now. It's a state that has a lot of players, but those players don't stay in state. So it all starts about, recruiting them, getting them in state. Greg Schiano had some really good years there, but that was also where they were in the Big East, not the Big Ten East.
Yeah, a big difference there. And Schiano has had some personal issues. I don't know if he is kind of past those, but if you notice, I think his last job, he quit the Patriots early in the season, which is usually not a good indicator of things.
Well, there was a Football News or Football Scoop, one of those sites, story that, believe it or not, believe it if you want, but basically was saying that Schiano was eyeing the Rutgers job and was very forthcoming with Bill Belichick and said that, he couldn't leave the Patriots in November if he was the Patriots defensive coordinator. So they agreed to depart ways. That's why he did it, because he was eyeing a college job, specifically Rutgers. Again, that was reported today. No quotes, obviously, but believe that if you want.
Yeah, interesting. Either way, if he's got his act together and is willing to coach, I think that would be one. If you're Rutgers, you probably open that door. Yeah.
What about Rutgers just has a miracle 6-6 season next year and meets Tennessee in a bowl game?
I think a lot of people might slit their wrist over that.
That would be awesome.
Oh, man. Any thoughts on the SEC or any future opponents before we get into the mailbag?
Not really. We'll find out more about Florida this week when they play Auburn. but Kentucky doesn't look so great right now. Obviously, South Carolina played well. Missouri seems to be playing well, but it's the same thing. If Vanderbilt plays well, it can probably beat anyone on its schedule except for down at Florida. But if they continue to play like they're playing, they're probably not going to win too many more games. That's one of those things. This team has the ability; they just got to play better. But SEC, it just seems like there's a huge gap between the elites and everyone else this year.
Yeah, what did you make of Arkansas this weekend?
Not shocked. They had played. I watched a lot. I didn't see any of that game because it was, I think, the same time as the Vanderbilt game. I watched a decent amount of the San Jose State game, and they were obviously awful. But they went ahead and made the quarterback change at some point on Saturday, and Ben Hicks came in and played better. That series, that's I think now 5 of the last 6 in that series. Texas A&M's won them all, but 5 of the last 6 have been decided by 7 points or less. So for whatever reason, they have played Texas A&M well down there. And they've got some players, they've got some good young receivers, and Hicks, those quarterbacks have the ability to play well. And also, A&M's been a little disappointing as well. So I actually was not shocked that game was close.
Well, of course, Chad Morris and Derek Mason grouped together a lot because Chad Morris was the runner-up for the job when Mason was hired. And from my understanding, some people on that committee wanted Morris as the guy. And so a lot of people are like, yeah, good thing they didn't get Chad Morris. But let's also be fair at the same time. Mason got his 2-year pass of on-the-job training, or however you want to put it. And does Morris not get that same courtesy?
Well, Morris was also a head coach too, at
that's
SMU.
right. He had been at SMU, so
he had a
mind.
losing record. He had a losing record. So there's 2 schools of thought with hiring. One is Arkansas. People saying, "Well, Arkansas, you hired a coach with a losing record. This is what you get." You could say, "Well, SMU was a very difficult spot," which they were. But I'd still rather not hire a coach with a losing record. I'd rather find the guy that's turned something around somewhere, and not had such early struggles like Morris did. But SMU got better every year he was there. I'm not saying he's not a good head coach, but it's gotten off to a brutal start. You look at the wins he has, there's so few, and then over Portland State by 7, over Colorado State, they have nothing resembling a quality win yet.
Well, the San Jose State game was troubling, because San Jose State's not been any good for a while. I don't know if it is this year, but when I watched that game and looked at...
They lost to Air Force bad Friday night.
Yeah, well, there you go. And when I looked at that box score while it was happening, that wasn't one of those, Arkansas had 450 yards and San Jose State had 230, but it was a -4 in turnovers or something like that. That was a game where they just got whipped.
Yep, I watched decent. There's nothing fluky about it. Arkansas threw a lot of interceptions, but they just, it wasn't like just bad luck and fumbles. They threw those picks because they weren't good enough.
I'm going to go ahead and get in the mailbag, which is sponsored by Vanderbilt fan Josh Minton, an independent insurance agent operating out of Brentwood. Looking for a one-stop shop to take care of your insurance needs? Josh has you covered. Call him today, 615-933-1979. Email him at josh@hqinsurance.com. Follow him at Joshua Minton HQ on Twitter or at facebook.com/JD Minton HQ. He's my insurance agent. Give him a try. Tell him you heard about it here. Door King says, "Why isn't
Jared like a physical mailbag? Is this like a physical mailbag that you get in? You said are you actually getting into a big mailbag right now?"
Yes. I'm sitting here. I'm just digging into letters and just like yes. Santa Claus, seeing what
like a recruit that's getting hundreds of letters every day,
seeing what surprises await me.
Yeah. All right.
There you go.
Go
ahead. Why isn't Jared Pinckney getting more touches?
Because everyone hates him. That's what I'm just kidding. No, because it obviously it was an issue on Saturday. They want to get Jared Pinckney more touches. Derek Mason acknowledged it after the game that they need to get him more involved. I'm not sure if it was something that Northern Illinois was doing to take him away. I will say again, I think I said this. We talked before we came on, but I think I said this also. It's only 54 offensive plays. KeShawn Vaughn, 17 catches, 3 receptions. Kalijah Lipscomb, 7 receptions. So they're getting their playmakers involved. They threw it to Pinckney once in the end zone. It was, it would have been a really nice touch pass if Riley Neal hooked up with him. So yeah, clearly need to get him more involved in that. I thought this was unfair. And I like Adam Sparks a lot. I think he does a great job as a Vanderbilt beat writer. I know Adam. He writes for us at Athlon. He's an outstanding writer. But he tweeted something like, "Derek Mason, this isn't the Jared Pinckney show," and that was the end of the tweet. Like, I didn't think that was fair. If you read the whole quote in context, it explained, yeah, we need to get him more involved. He's a big part of our team, but this isn't the Jared Pinkney show. It's Vanderbilt football, and we got other guys too. So, like, you know, sure, Jared Pinkney needs to get more involved, and my guess is they'll get him more involved this week.
That was a strange press conference, and I walked in a little bit late.
Yeah, I was obviously I'm not there. I'm in the locker room, so I did not see it.
It did, and I think Adam tweeted this. It seemed more like a 14-point loss than a 6-point win, and in a way, I think that's good. I think it's an acknowledgement that they know they need to play better, but it was very strange because at Vanderbilt, you don't see that a whole lot.
Sort of like the TSU game last year. That was the feeling I got, more so. Like, that the team was, sure they won the game, but they know that basically they won the game, but that was not acceptable, that they obviously have to play better, and they ended up playing better down the stretch. So we'll see if they'll play better. But, obviously Northern Illinois is a lot better team than TSU, and the game wasn't even as close as the TSU game, ended up being. So, yeah. But again, I can't really comment to the tone of the press conference because I wasn't there.
Let's open another letter here.
Okay.
What kind of grade?
Don't get a paper cut.
I think I get hazard pay for this.
Yeah.
What kind of grade do you give Riley Neal, and do you think he's improving? This one also from Door King.
Yeah. Good question. I had certain expectations from Riley Neal. I'd say he probably hasn't played as well as I thought he would. His numbers are pretty good, but they don't really ask him to go downfield much. I would probably give him a B for the season so far. It's a little difficult to grade him because he hasn't had the offensive line that we thought he would have until week 4, and 2 of the first 3 opponents were 2 of the best teams that were the 2 best teams he'll play. I thought he would play well on Saturday. I thought the game would kind of slow down for him because of the level of competition and just getting more familiar. Again, I thought he was victimized a couple times by guys slipping, coming out of routes there. So I thought he played fine the other day, and to date, I'd probably give him a B or B minus.
This one from Mr. Vandy, I think this is a telegram. He says, why do you think they get so conservative with play calling at times?
I don't really think they got that conservative. I thought the other way, that like when they got, I think it was a 21-10 lead, maybe got the ball back, they should have kept feeding KeShawn Vaughn and threw the ball a couple times to maybe catch the defense off guard. So, you can question the play calling, but I don't think it's conservative. It seems like the cry for 2 years is give the ball to your all SEC running back more. So, to me, you can't have it both ways. You can't want the ball to go to Vaughn and then call that conservative. Maybe not throwing downfield. Maybe that's what he means. That's fair. I'd like to see it throw the ball downfield a little bit more. But I think maybe in that game they thought they had the better athletes. So let's get the ball to Kalijah Lipscomb. Let's get the ball to Cam Johnson in space and KeShawn Vaughn and make those guys miss. That's my guess. And a lot of times it did. A lot of times they made guys miss and got some extra yards.
Well, what I do see them doing a lot is something that Cardrell's teams did, where they make a lot of these long throws across the field, where it's parallel to the line of scrimmage or maybe a yard or 2 ahead, and it's like you throw the ball 30 yards, to get it 3 yards downfield, and honestly they're completing those at a phenomenally high rate. It's like 90-something%, but they go for 6 yards a play, so it's like a run. It's a really weird dimension of this offense right now that I think I'm having trouble grasping. Okay, what's the point behind this? I mean, I guess you could say the point is that they're like a run when they're completing almost every one of them, but it does look like it's sort of a high-risk throw when the ball is in the air that long and it's not that far downfield, so it kind of seems to limit your gains too.
Yeah, and then there was a throw where clearly Riley shouldn't have thrown it. The DB broke on it, and it could have been a pick six. Yeah, I can definitely recall some kind of like those throws that the ball travels a long way for a short gain. But let's also give him credit for setting up the flea flicker, which worked perfectly. So that was obviously something they'd worked on all week, and it led to an easy score.
Flea flickers, I don't think get used enough.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, especially when you got a guy like Vaughn, it seems like there's, I don't want to say no negative, but okay, if it doesn't work, then your quarterback, if like the initial route's not there, you should still have some other options there. You just throw the ball away. I'm with you. I mean, it's not like you want to run them two or three times a game, but how often do you see them a season? I can't remember the last time Vanderbilt run a flea flicker, so maybe that's why they're so effective, because they're so rarely used. And that's also, it's just it's fun because all of us growing up, we were, that was probably like 50% of the plays playing backyard football with flea flickers.
Yeah, the shovel pass is another one I think is sort of underutilized because if you drop it, it's not a fumble.
Right. Actually, Northern Illinois had a nice one on third and really long, and they didn't get it. They still punted, but I'm with you too. It's an effective play.
And the hook and lateral was another one when we were kids used to see some, and especially on like last play of the game stuff. That's one that I just don't get because you're not going to. The odds are you're not going to win a Hail Mary, but I think when there's not a lot of coverage underneath, you got a better chance. You see this from time to time. Seems like when that play gets used, it either results in a in the messiest looking play you've ever seen, or something to catch a defense off guard.
Well, so Indiana ran that in basically the last play of the game after falling behind Michigan by 3, and ended up in a fumble in against Michigan State. Excuse me, in Michigan State recovered the fumble in the end zone and scored. Did not cover the spread with that, but they went from a 3-point game to a 9-point game in the last play of the game.
Yeah, some people might care about that. So
yes.
Okay, Vandy Fitz. I think I don't know. It seems like we've maybe answered this one before, so pardon me if we have. He says, after watching a replay of the NIU game, I noticed Vaughn ran several runs into a loaded box with no gain each time. Is Riley Neal allowed to audible out of such run calls when he sees the defense ready to stop between the tackle runs? Is he just not recognizing 8 men in the box?
I think he's allowed to. I mean, you see him tap the helmet, look stuff, so I'd be surprised if he's not. But I can't answer that. Sometimes they might creep someone up late, or KeShawn Vaughn. I know it's different at the goal line, but I thought he did a great job on his touchdown. There was nothing there, and he just put his head down. He kept his head up and just went moved to the right a little bit, then found a hole and scored easily. So again, I'd be surprised. I don't know if he has as much freedom as Kyle Shermer. Andy Ludwig used to tell me Kyle Shermer's one of the smartest, maybe the smartest quarterback he ever had, as far as getting his team in and out of getting him out of bad plays.
Yeah, speaking of which, the narrative all off season was that really opened their playbook because now they had more mobile quarterbacks. That hasn't changed anything from that.
Yeah, I'm surprised Riley has not run the ball more. He did against LSU a couple times. He's just not as fast as I thought. And maybe it's the I know they played Northern Illinois on Saturday, but maybe it's the speed of some of the defenses they played. But yeah, I honestly thought that'd be a bigger part of the offense.
Papa Hick 4 VU says, is anything being done to address the ridiculous lack of discipline in regards to the number of penalties the team is committing? Are the coaches preaching a message to the players and the players just don't care or respect the staff enough to follow their instructions?
That's kind of a loaded question.
That is kind of a loaded question, but there is a troublesome problem in there too. So
yeah, I mean, obviously there were 4 hands to the face penalties in the game. Other than that, I don't recall, a ton of penalties. And let me look something up real quick. They had a lot against Purdue, and then I'm looking this up. Had 13 against Purdue, only 3 against LSU. So I guess the players, paid attention against LSU and then stopped paying attention. I mean, it's. I don't think there's a ridiculous lack of discipline. It's happenstance. Can't tell you what they do to address it there. It's not something that they want to do. But again, we went over this. Vanderbilt was, I think, the least penalized team in the SEC last year, the second least. It has not been a problem in the Derek Mason era. It's been a problem so far this year with 10 penalties, 13 penalties, 3 penalties, and 9 penalties. But, I mean, I don't think it's accurate or fair to say it's a lack of respect and the players just do what they want. I mean, that's not the case.
No, I think if that were the case, that would be a pattern that you would see over the years, which is not. And on offense, okay, I can explain some of that because you've got a new offensive line. Somebody might get confused. Somebody might hold when they're tiring because they're not used to playing that much. Those, I don't necessarily excuse them, but they're more understandable. The multiple personal fouls and the multitude of hands to the face penalties and stuff like that, I don't know if you just have a crew that's calling it tighter. And again, let's say this too. Some of these games Vanderbilt's been in, the Georgia game and the NIU game in particular, there were a lot of penalties called on the other side. So
right,
maybe maybe one crew's 4 penalty game is another team's 9 penalty game. So I think
I can only call one personal foul this year on Sage Young. Now, hands to the face is a personal foul, but that's not being dirty. I think that's just guys getting their hands in the wrong spot. I've never played in the line of scrimmage. I can see how that can happen. I'm not making excuses for it, but that's not like guys just going rogue and hitting someone. Like again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Sage Young against Purdue is the only like late hit or actual personal foul against Vanderbilt. Tate Daly had Randall Haney had the targeting, but again, that's a football play. Again, I'm just going lack of discipline. Football. I think a guy's just hitting someone out of bounds or losing their cool. Like last year, Kalijah Lipscomb had a personal foul in 3 straight games. There have not been a lot of those.
No, I think you're right on that. But it's one of these things where when your margin for error is so slim, you've got to find a way to not do those things. So.
Right, and they were very good at it last year. Maybe that's why they squeezed out 6 wins.
Vandy Fitz says, does Riley Neal have a low pass release? He seems to get more passes tipped or knocked down than the average quarterback, despite being at least 4 inches taller. Are bad, crowded routes being attempted?
I don't know. I don't know about the mechanics. He does not seem to have a low delivery. And, every team throws routes, over the offensive line, so I wouldn't say that there was, that's the issue. And I don't know how many has he had batted down this year? You think 4 passes, 5?
I can't think of that many. That's one thing that people are noticing that I'm not picking up on. I don't know if sometime a ball is getting tipped to where the trajectory is altered a little bit to where I'm not picking up from the press box, which I don't understand I don't think I'm noticing it as much as other people are.
Yeah, there was the key one against Purdue on 4th down, which the play was designed to Pinckney, and he was wide open, but the guy just came in and batted it down, and that might be on Riley. That had nothing to do with the level of, arm trajectory or arm placement. That was just more like the dude was coming up in his face, and he had to, no quarterback was going to get that past that guy. He had to, move around. So again, I of all the issues on the team, that does not seem to be one that's jumping out to me.
Here's an interesting one from Jay Tolk. Do you think Jerry Godowski will open up the playbook more this week and as the season rolls on? I think they could give Vaughn more touches than they do, and definitely Jared Pinckney. Now, there's a few elements to that I think are worth probably exploring before we get into the answer. I think one of them, obviously the offensive line probably limited some things, and maybe you call the game a little differently with the big lead Saturday. Again, I'm not defending their offense. They should be playing better than they are. They're ranked 100th in scoring, and that's with 2 defensive touchdowns. So I think there's something there. But let's get into the nuances of this. Does anything change maybe as the defenses they play perhaps aren't as gifted as the ones that they have been playing, and when it's not 127 degrees on the field too?
Yeah, we'll find out. My issue from layman's perspective and not really understanding everything you're trying to do offensively is not as many balls downfield. That could be it was clear in the Georgia game specifically because Georgia's the best defense they faced, and that was the best defense they think they'll face. They wanted to get the ball out quickly, and it worked. It worked to the degree that they're completing the passes and stuff. Didn't move the ball as much as you'd like. So I've got no problem. Vaughn's basically with Jamari Wakefield out. Keon Brooks has gotten some carries, but meaningful tailback carries. 15, 17, 20, and 17 for a guy who's been injury prone in his career. I think that's probably a good number. They threw the ball to him 3 times out of the backfield. Again, he had 20 touches and 54 offensive snaps. That's a pretty big number there. So. I'd like to probably see him throw the ball downfield more, but I have no problem with the usage of KeShawn Vaughn. We've already talked about how we think, Pinckney needs to, be a bigger part of the game plan, but I'm sure they agree with that.
JB Goldrush asks, why do the defensive ends keep getting sealed and opposing runners can go 8 or 9 yards untouched? That was not as much of a problem, against Purdue and Northern Illinois. Of course, that was a much bigger problem against Georgia and LSU for reasons that are easily understandable.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch game film, and from my angle on the field, I can't see things. I think probably that has a lot to do with who you're playing. Just better offensive lines and better execution, and a talent advantage. The other team's offensive line. I will say it was a little troubling at times. Northern Illinois was a team that really struck. They'd averaged less than 3 yards per carry in their first 3 games, and they had some success running the ball, so that was a little troubling there too. And a lot of it was on that kind of same play, bringing the tailback across, kind of going around the end. So maybe that's what he was referring to.
Last one from VU Titans. What did the sideline reporters do to keep cool on a hot day like it was on Saturday? He said, I'm guessing that wearing the equipment is not fun.
Just drink a lot of Gatorade and a lot of water. So, you see me walking by, drink a ton of Gatorade. It's the equipment's not the issue at all. It's just all I do is have a little belt pack and some headphones on. I'm not wearing those big, ear over the head things. So, you just got to hydrate all week like the athletes, and but it's not ideal, but I still enjoy doing it. I explained this to someone the other day. Asked me if I still like doing sidelines. This was after the LSU game. I said it was a 4-hour game. It was the hottest I've ever been in a game. The team got killed, but I still really had a good time. So that's that's explaining to someone how much I still enjoy it a lot. And in the Northern Illinois game is now replaced the LSU game. It's the hottest game I've ever done.
Well, Mitch, we enjoy the podcast with you each and every week. You have another podcast. I want to give you a minute to promote that and give out your Twitter handle or anything else like that, or any of your Athlon's magazines you'd like to promote. The floor is yours as we end today to do all of that.
Okay. Well, thanks, Chris. Athlon Mitch is my Twitter handle, and we do the Cover 2 podcast, me and Braden Gall. Every Monday and Wednesday, Monday recap, Wednesday preview. So we do that twice a week during the season. Have fun doing that. And our Athlon Sports College basketball magazines are out of newsstands right now. And that's about it. So, yeah, just plugging away.
Thanks so much, Mitch.
All right, take care, Chris.
He is Mitch Light of Athlon Magazine, also the sideline reporter for Vanderbilt football. I'm Chris Lee, the host of the Vandy Sports Podcast. As always, we appreciate you listening. Please check out more episodes that will drop later in the week.